Hey guys, it's Chris. From an unexpected comic book worth a small fortune, here are 10 lucky discoveries that made people rich. Number 10. Superman comic. It's not every day somebody finds a comic book that makes them rich. But that's exactly what happened when a construction worker in Minnesota was restoring a small house in the town of Hoffman. His name was David Gonzales, and the 34-year-old man found the comic book sitting amongst old newspapers in the attic of the house he was working on. The comic book that he found had been sitting for over 70 years in the attic of the house, half buried by insulation. After he found it, he put the comic up for sale, and it sold for $175,000. If you're confused as to why it sold for so much, keep in mind that this was a copy of Action Comics #1. That's the very first comic that featured Superman. While he did strike a pretty sweet bargain considering he found the comic for free, David actually tore the cover by accident during an argument a few days later with the aunt of his wife. The comic was then only graded as a 1.5 on a scale that goes all the way up to 10, and because of that one tear, he ended up missing out on quite a bit of money. If the comic had been a full 10 on the scale, it would have been worth a couple $1,000,000. According to comic book experts, there's only an estimated 100 known copies of this particular issue available today. It was first published in 1938, so you can imagine that since then a lot of copies have been ruined or lost. This same comic in pristine condition was graded a 9 and then sold for over $2 million back in November of 2011, claiming the record for the highest price ever paid for a comic book. Isn't that amazing? If you were a millionaire, would you have bought this comic? If not, what would you want to buy? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new here. We have lots of videos coming up. Number 9. Gold pendant found by a young boy. A young boy only 4 years old found the treasure of a lifetime when using a metal detector to search through a field in rural England back in 2010. This young boy, who probably didn't even understand the value of a $100 bill at the time, found a treasure estimated to be worth more than $2.5 million. Just imagine what a kid younger than 5 could do with all that money. As reported by BBC, the gold pendant that the boy found dates back to the 16th century. While the boy and his father were in the field, the metal detector started buzzing. And after just a few seconds of digging, there was a flash of gold. The pendant had been sitting about 6 inches under the ground for at least the last few hundred years. After the British Museum examined the pendant, they determined that the image engraved upon it was likely the Virgin Mary, and the rest of the pendant was decorated with the 5 wounds of Christ. As for the gold content of the pendant, it was estimated to be 73%, and that's a hefty bit of gold. If the family managed to sell the pendant and got the full sum estimated, they said they would share it with the landowner whose field they originally found it in. That's not a bad paycheck for a short day of work. Number 8. PYURA chilensis. This next story is a little bit weird. Unless you're a native of Chile or Peru, you've probably never heard of the PYURA chilensis. It's a sea creature disguised as a rock that is worth a small fortune. These are often considered living rocks. As to the unsuspecting person, they really do just look like any other piece of stone found at the bottom of the ocean. But apparently these critters are immobile invertebrates, properly classified as sea squirts, and they can be found in clusters of thousands. Their meat is also a delicacy in South America, making anyone who stumbles upon a cluster of these bizarre little animals, well, a little bit richer. People cook the meat into stews, they prepare it with salad or rice, and sometimes they even eat it raw. However, people who are not locals typically aren't that interested in eating living rocks that have guts. Some foreigners have referred to the taste as being soapy or having a weird iodine flavor. Even more, 2 Chilean biologists recently published their findings on the reproduction of these very valuable critters. Apparently, when this animal wants to repopulate, a single one will produce a cloud of eggs and sperm. And when the 2 clouds collide, they make more of these critters. If you're wondering how one of the animals is able to reproduce on its own, that's because when puberty time comes, the organism turns into a hermaphrodite. That means it's a boy and a girl. Number 7. Baseball cards in an attic. When a man in New Jersey died at the ripe old age of 97, a treasure was found in the attic of his home. It was one of the most valuable discoveries of sports memorabilia ever. In this guy's attic was hiding a rare and valuable sports card collection, including a baseball card from the former New York Yankees Babe Ruth that was hand-signed by the man himself. According to the report from Fox News, there were at least 1,000 vintage baseball cards and other collectibles just sitting in this guy's attic. And at the time the story was published, they were expected to go for several $1 million at auction. The card of Babe Ruth, which was from 1933, was expecting to sell on its own for at least $100,000. And to make the pot even sweeter, there were 6 of those cards, each one of them signed. This collection was graded and authenticated by a professional sports authenticator, though who exactly found the collection was never mentioned in the news. It was likely one of his family members. That's got to be the best inheritance anyone could ask for. Number 6. National treasure found at the flea market. It's nothing new to go into a flea market expecting to find some hidden goods. Everyone loves finding a great deal at a flea market or a second-hand store and then telling all their friends about it. But what nobody expects is to find a legitimate copy of the original 1776 Declaration of Independence at a local flea market. But this is exactly what happened over 20 years ago when Tom from Pennsylvania, who just so happened to be a former counterintelligence operative, purchased the handwritten declaration from the Bucks County Flea Market. As the president of the Heritage Collectors Society at the time, Tom had some hookups. He first thought the item he purchased was just a souvenir copy, but he did get a second opinion anyways. It turned out that after a bit of detective work that he had the real thing on his hands. In fact, it was better than the real thing. Tom had found an anastic copy on parchment of the original Declaration of Independence, which kind of made it just as important as the original and definitely worth a ton of money. The original document would have been copied using an acid-based solution to create the relic that Tom found. It's rarer than any of the 200 or more printed copies that had been distributed in July of 1776. Considering that the most recent printed copy was sold for $8.1 million at auction, the anastic copy could be sold for upwards of, get this, $140 million. Number 5. The most expensive piece of whale vomit. This next one is a huge surprise. An 8-year-old boy in Great Britain found a chunk of whale vomit worth an absolute fortune. While walking on a beach, the young boy came across a large chunk of what looked to be a yellow rock, and with the help of his parents discovered that the thing he had found was not an ordinary rock, but a piece of ambergris, also known as whale vomit. It's a special substance either barfed or pooped out by sperm whales, and this piece that he found was worth an incredible $63,000. That's got to be the most disgusting valuable item I've ever heard of, and the reason why is even grosser. Why does whale vomit cost so much? Because it's a substance which is in high demand with perfume makers. According to the Huffington Post, whale vomit actually helps to prolong the smell of any perfume, which is why a single pound of waste from a whale can fetch as much as $10,000 on an open market. According to the boy's father, they didn't sell it right away as they were waiting to get some more information on the discovery from marine biology experts. Plus, what does an 8-year-old know about $63,000? That's enough money to get a serious boost ahead in life with a down payment on a house, but if I were an 8-year-old with that much money, I'd probably buy a horse or some video games or something. Hopefully the kid's parents can sell the whale vomit and save the money for something important for the boy. Number 4. World's best opal. Opals are precious stones that can be worth anywhere from nothing to a huge fortune. These are some of the most interesting gemstones in the world because of their incredible scope of colors. Opals can be just about any color, and the most expensive ones have swirls of many different hues and tones inside of them. One of the most valuable gem opals ever found was back in 1956 in Australia. A miner found it at the Coober Pedy Opal Field in South Australia at a depth of around 30 feet. It was named in honor of the Olympic Games, which at the time were being held in Melbourne. The extraordinary opal found was rare because it consisted of 99% gem opal, with an even color throughout the entirety of the stone. It's been recorded as one of the most expensive opals ever discovered on Earth. It weighed approximately 17,000 carats, was 11 inches long, and about 5 inches tall. In 2005, the Olympic Australis, as it was called, was estimated to be worth roughly $2.5 million. Because of how pure the stone was, experts believed that at least 7,000 carats could be cut from the single piece. But because it was indeed so unique, nobody had any plans to cut the thing up. As for the guy who found it, there isn't much information on his full story, but you can bet he turned quite a profit off this amazing find. Number 3. Coins in the wall. When it comes to hiding your wealth, most people would stuff all their cash into a mattress or even maybe put it in a vault. Packing coins in the walls of your house just doesn't seem like a great idea. But apparently many years ago, the ideal hiding space was absolutely behind the walls of your own home. Back in 2007, a treasure of coins was found in the walls of an old house in Pennsylvania. These coins ranged from between the 1820s to the 1960s, and they made one family a significant amount of money. According to the local news reports, the abandoned home had been searched by a rare collector at the behest of the family. It seemed like the family thought that there could be something valuable in the old, unoccupied home, and they hired a guy who knows his stuff to go looking. Once the guy got to their house, he noticed a hole in the wall. Upon further investigation, it turned out it was a giant reservoir of old coins hidden behind the decaying walls of the house, including large cents, Liberty dimes, and Morgan silver dollars. At face value, the total coins were worth about $8,500, but because of their age and significance, the investigator estimated that the coins could be worth as much as $200,000. Number 2. Enormous gold nugget. An amateur explorer in Australia unearthed a nugget of gold worth more money than most of us will ever see in a lifetime. The man is unidentified, probably because he's now stinking rich and doesn't want people to know about it. But in any case, he found the gold nugget on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon when using a metal detector and just kind of wandering around waiting for it to beep. Well, the metal detector beeped, and under a few inches of earth, this amateur treasure hunter found a gold nugget weighing over 12 pounds. That makes the nugget worth over $300,000. Apparently, when the guy first heard his metal detector beeping, he simply thought he had found a hood of a car. But then he saw the gold glinting through the dirt. If you're not sure why this is such an incredible find, it's because it's widely rare in this day and age to find a nugget of this size. 12 pounds is literally insane for a piece of gold. People mine gold their entire lives and never come across a chunk of gold anywhere near this large. Then some random guy with a metal detector comes along and he finds the biggest piece ever. Suffice it to say, this is one lucky discovery. Number 1. The discovery of the popsicle. In the early 1900s in San Francisco, an 11-year-old boy invented the popsicle. That's right, the incredibly popular summer treat was invented by a young kid named Frank Epperson, and he did it completely by accident. This kid mixed up some sugary powder and water, then left it out overnight. And because it was winter in San Francisco, the mixture froze. In the morning, Frank found the world's first popsicle just waiting to be eaten. And because he'd left the wooden stir stick inside the mixture, he had literally created a popsicle completely by accident. As a young entrepreneur, the little kid went about selling his invented treat throughout the neighborhood. Then in 1923, Frank expanded sales and started selling his famous treats at Neptune Beach, one of California's original amusement parks. Eventually, an older Frank Epperson applied for a patent for his frozen treat, and things were looking good. Frank made quite a bit of money from his invention, but unfortunately he went broke in the 1920s and had to sell his creation to the Joe Low Company. After that, the Loco went on to make a solid fortune off the kid's invention, pushing popsicles on the entire world up until today. So while the original kid who discovered the popsicle didn't get rich forever, at least we can all enjoy a tasty frozen treat on a sunny day. Out of everyone on this list, who do you think got the luckiest with their discovery? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to World List and come back soon for another exciting video. Would you rather be rich or live eternally?